What?
Mhm. And I'm just IT guessing right now because I don't really know, but. I don't know.
Yes.
We're just gonna try it all over again. Like shutting it down and restarting it. Call that easy or whatever.
Koi, test, no, it's not. Zero again.
So they can't hear us. We're mute.
I'm gonna go down and see. And then I'll check something. I think there is something down there. Well, there. No, there's a picture. I'm not sure.
So if they can't hear us, it's not recording, and when she does her presentation, right, or just even saying, if you're present.
I'll have to record it then. There is nothing in that. Oh, Thomas isn't like.
Okay.
Kelsey says she can hear.
But we can't hear them.
Ask Kelsey to talk.
Kelsey, can you talk to us, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, we can't hear her.
Yeah, we can't hear her. She's definitely on. That's odd.
Do we? Oh, technology is not my. I have a 13-year-old.
There you go. Yep, yep.
She hooks it all up for us.
Yep.
Kelsey can hear. You can hear. Kelsey can hear, but they can't hear her. But if they hear us, do we need to hear them?
Do we need to hear them?
They could raise their hand and type their questions. Well,
Should-
what I'm wondering is just you guys.
Should we just record it just to be safe?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it- do we have any-
right. It's much better than having next week.
Nope.
I need permission to record it, or if you can record on yours. Can you record on
I
yours?
believe it.
Down at the bottom?
I'll type a message here.
Let's try it. Testing.
Back on. Yeah, she can hear you.
But we will go back and do it the other way, the manual way. So with 2 new board members, I felt it really important to just kind of go back and talk about everything that we do prior to submitting and those schools that are involved in the process. And so this slide here talks about all the different federal programs that are governed under ESSA, including a couple other that we work not specifically under ESSA, but we're part of ESSER. For example, Title I, we have 10 title schools in Rapid City area schools, and we also have 3 school improvement grant schools. Under Title 1D, that is our neglected, delinquent, and at-risk students. Title I, Part C is our migrant education. This is a federal program that we don't receive funding under. It actually goes through a third party, which is Black Hills Special Services, and they provide support for those families that are considered migrant. Migrant, of course, are those families that move due to agricultural or food industry. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. Title II is professional development. It is also used to improve the skills of teachers and the quality of instruction. Title III is English language acquisition, which we do not receive federal funds for. However, we're still held accountable through the state of South Dakota to provide services for our ELL students under our special ed, our Dr. Hafer under our special education program monitors our ELL services. Title IV, which a couple weeks ago I was here and did a presentation under Title IV, explaining well-rounded and safe and healthy schools, along with the technology support that we provide to the district. McKinney-Vento is a formula grant that is funded for students experiencing homelessness. And then under McKinney-Vento, we also receive funds that are ARP funds through ESSER, or during the ESSER period of time, we received ARP funds. We are utilizing and closing out ARP 1 and still utilizing funds under ARP 2. We received ESSER 1, 2, and 3. Last year, at the end of the year, we closed out ESSER 1. ESSER 2 is closed out this summer. And then ESSER 3, finally, after almost 4 years, we'll be closing out ESSER 3 next June and have everything obligated by September 30th of 2024. And so those funds will be gone away by the end of next school year. We also work with 9 private schools. We do consultation with them, and required under ESSA, we do what's called equitable share. Each of our private schools that we do consultation with, and if they opt in, we provide an equitable share for services under Title I, Title II, and Title IV. And lastly, we have our Title VI, which is our Indian Education Formula Grant. And this is to meet the unique cultural, language, and educational needs of our Native American students. So the next slide shows all of our title schools in the district. And we have 10 title schools, 9 of which are elementary and 1 which is North Middle School. We only have 1 middle school because of the disparity between the economic disadvantage at North Middle School, which is at 100%, where the next second middle school, there's such a huge gap that they wouldn't qualify under ESSA. We have 3 school improvement schools. Last year when I presented to you, we actually had 9. And after last year and the accountability that was put into place, we only service 3 school improvement schools. We have what's considered, 2 of them are additional targeted school improvement, and that's General Beadle and Horace Mann. And then we have 1 school that's targeted school improvement, and that's Corral Drive Elementary. We work with 9 private schools here in Rapid City. They are the 3 schools that are under the Catholic school system, which is St. Thomas More and Elizabeth Seton. Calvary Christian, we have worked with them for several years, and this year, due to some changes, they've actually opted out for 1 year. And so when we do consultation next year, they'll have the opportunity to opt back in. And that's a choice. The school board for each of those schools does have the choice to whether opt in or opt out. We also work with Children's House Montessori. Rapid City Christian has always opted out. But each year we do provide consultation to them. We do share with them all of the amazing things that we're doing in Rapid City area schools and give them the opportunity to opt in again. St. Paul's Lutheran Church, Zion Lutheran School, and a new school for us this year is Creekside Christian School. And that school is located off of St. Patrick. They were recently accredited, and we were really excited to meet their personnel and to bring them on. So 3 times a year, I meet with the non-pub schools. In March, I meet with them. We do consultation, we do presentations. All of our departments do a presentation, show them the different things that we are utilizing our title funds for, share with them our curriculums and the things that we are doing to tackle truancy and attendance and all of those other areas. Then prior to school being out, which actually next week we meet with all of our 7 schools that opted in, and we work with them on their allocation and putting together their budgets for the new school year. Then, of course, in the fall, we touch base with them. Generally, it's around October, and we meet with those schools again. If there's new personnel, we make sure that we are introducing the new personnel. We share with them the types of professional development that we're doing for the year. For example, we have a menu of options that which you all have seen as part of our safe and healthy and well-rounded schools. We share with them those types of things in the fall and help them get their year started. We do monthly monitorings with them to make sure that they are utilizing their funds, making sure if they have questions that we're there to support them and help them. All 7 that opted in, and actually all 9 are great administrators to work with. And I know they do sincerely appreciate the equitable share that's provided by the state through our district. A little bit about school improvement. The 3 schools that we have in school improvement, a lot of times people wonder why they're in school improvement. There are several areas to why they may be the lowest performing 5% of Title I schools in the state. And that's where we have General Beadle and Horace Mann that qualified this last year. It can be a high school, which we have none this year, that have a graduation rate that would be less than 67%. I shared with Superintendent Swigert early on in the school year that we did have Central High School that qualified, but after they completed their, they get to put in requests to have them relook at their data and so forth. They were taken off the list. So we appreciated Central High School really digging into their data, their registrars really digging into the attendance data, and they were taken off of the school improvement list for this year. So that was a highlight for the high schools. Schools with underperforming subgroups, that can be any of the subgroups that we utilize for testing and that we disaggregate those results. For example, Horace Mann is in school improvement for special education population. And then General Beadle is in for 2 or more, which is her low social, economic, and special ed as well. Under targeted support, those are schools with consistently underperforming subgroups as defined by the state. Those, I'll go over, one of my slides is out of order, I think, but that can be even a math subgroup, a reading subgroup, any of those other areas. It can be your population such as Native American or Caucasian, they're listed under through the state's assessment and accountability. So the next slide talks about Title I, and Title I is a program specifically geared to students from low-income families and areas which provide money to local districts to improve academic performance for schools. And so they look at our results in math, reading and ELA, as well as attendance, and then of course our high school, our graduation rates. I have to keep moving this little things in the way. I don't know how to get rid of that. How to use title funds as a district in a school. Title I funds can be used to improve curriculum, instructional activities, counseling, parental involvement, increase staff, and program improvement. The funding should assist schools in meeting the educational goals of low-income students. So every school in our district is required to put together a school improvement plan. Title I schools have to go above and beyond and put together a school-wide plan. We are a school-wide district. So therefore, what we've been able to do, and under Superintendent Sweigert's direction and our other leaders this year at the district level, helped our schools put together school improvement plans, but our title schools were able to utilize not only their school improvement, but their school-wide. They were able to mesh the two plans to meet the expectation. Because the expectation by the state is to have a school-wide plan that has goals that meet the needs of the school based on our assessment and accountability. What these Title I funds can be used for, and what ESSA is very specific, and what our state has provided for us is very specific on what we can utilize those funds for, to ensure, of course, that we're not supplanting or that we're not utilizing funds for the intended purposes of our district. So title funds can be used for non-instructional costs, such as behavioral supports, attendance programs, community and parent engagement, if these costs are shown to help improve student achievement. Title I funds can be spent on comprehensive school-wide interventions and direct instruction in the classrooms. Schools receiving Title I money to support a school-wide program may use their funds to improve student achievement throughout their entire school. Therefore, every child benefits, no matter what your social economic status is. Every child benefits from the added services and programs, not just the students identified as eligible to participate. And that's the, we are very advantageous in this district to be able to do that and not have to do just targeted for a specific group or for even a small group of students. One of the things that's required is the 1% set aside and how our parents are involved. Any school with Title I allocation exceeding $500,000 is required by law to set aside 1% of their Title I allocation for parent and family engagement. Of course, in Rapid City area schools, we are allocated nearly $6 million. On one of the slides is the exact amount, but with carryover, we do exceed over $6 million. And that carryover we receive generally in October. 1% of each school's funding, which on average may be anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 of their allocation, is used to engage parents. Of that 1%, 10% may be reserved at the district for system-wide initiatives related to parent and family engagement. The remaining 90% may be allocated to the Title I schools in the district. We actually allocate all of it to our schools. And so our schools benefit from that percentage, which is generally most of the schools spend more than 1% on their families to engage them. Each school must involve parents on how this money is spent on family and engagement activities and family professional development. So each of our schools, our district has what's called a FACE plan. And then each one of our schools have a FACE plan as well as a parent involvement policy or compact. We don't like to call it policy because board sets policy. Really, it's a compact on how we are engaging our families. All of our schools, our Title I schools, are required to solicit feedback from their families. Some of our schools do it in a variety of ways. Almost all of our schools survey their parents in the spring. I'd say 99% of our schools already have this spring surveyed their parents. They take that data and they put it together on how our families feel their needs can be best met during family engagement. And so they bring the families in. Another way is during family nights, they'll survey them. But most importantly, at the beginning of the year, every title school is required to have a separate meeting outside of an open house or outside of some already planned event to go over their school-wide plan with their parent community. So many of them on their first Title I family engagement night will review their Title I plan with their families, as well as their assessment data, the goals that they have set forth for the school year, and then all of the dates and events are planned in advance so that parents have the opportunity to participate those in advance. So we do ask our schools to put that schedule out for the year. Parent involvement is a crucial factor of the Title I legislation. As you know, schools receiving this fund must implement programs, activities, and procedures that include and promote parent involvement in school-related activities. Schools must also provide opportunities that encourage parents to increase their knowledge and skills as they're related to their child's education. So one of the things that we ask our schools to do that they've done for years, and myself as a former Title I principal, is always to have that education component. That realistically is why we do those family engagement nights, to provide, whether it's a math night, how we can educate our parents on how to help their children at home. We do that in a variety of ways. We also do STEAM nights, carnival nights, but then there's still that educational component. There may be a night, for example, I know General Beadle did a night where they involved people from all over the community, a resource night for our incoming families, for those kindergartners. It's kind of more an outreach, but they still are stakeholders because many of them already have kids at our schools or will be. One of the objectives of these programs and activities is how to help parents understand and show them how important their involvement is in shaping the lives of our children in becoming successful and productive contributors to our society. I think that when we went in 2020, we kind of lost that. So we tried to build that momentum, and we saw a lot of great involvement this year, not only just with our Title I schools, but I really believe that all of our schools are doing the best they can to reach out. The difference is under our FACE plan, our Title I schools have to do 4 family nights a year. Most of our schools do a family night each month. That helps to continually engage those parents because, as we know, many of our students that do go to the Title I schools do need that additional support. And it's our family and community engagement plan. Yes. So why is parent and family engagement? What is the family engagement plan? The plan addresses how the school will implement the parent and family engagement requires of ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. It includes the school's expectations for families, and that's that compact. That's the expectation of what we expect of parents and their students, how the schools will involve parents in decision-making, and how the schools will work to build the schools and parents' capacity for strong parental involvement to improve student academic achievement. Title I parents have the right to be involved in the development of this plan. So each school does schedule with their parent community, and they all have a right to be involved with the plan, as well as their school-wide plan, including the teachers that are involved in the school. So what's included in this plan? The plan addresses how the school will implement the family engagement requirements. Those components include how parents can be involved in decision-making and activities, how parental and family engagement funds are being used. So it's really being transparent too with our families. So if we have obligated 1% and it's $5,000 of that school's budget, we are being transparent with those families. For example, soliciting from them, what kind of trainings would our parents want? What kind of speakers would they benefit coming in? What kind of purchase services for us to provide education to those families? So all of that is done together, and how information and training will be provided to them. We do offer several ways. Sometimes our families still prefer Zoom. So we can do what's called asynchronous, which is we have in person, but then we can set up the Zoom, kind of like we're doing here. So we're still involving the community, but then we have those parents and families, and many of the students like to come to those activities, so they're present. And then how the school will build capacity in parents and staff for strong parental and family engagement through those evidence-based strategies. Title I parents have the right to be involved in the development of this plan as well. So there's also the school parent compact. I know I'm going over a lot of these family components, but they are required, and it's a huge part of each Title I school's school-wide plan. So the compact is a commitment from the school, the parent, and the student to share responsibilities about each student's academic achievement. Title I parents have the right to be involved in this. The schools must include the following 6 components: provide high-quality curriculum and instruction, hold parent-teacher conferences. They do ask us to hold them in a variety of ways. Many of our schools, for those families that can't make it, will even do separate and individual conferences at families' request or a parent's request. Some of our parents in some of these particular schools don't even have cars, and when it's in the wintertime, it's pretty hard. So many of them, through now our technology, we're able to offer those Zooms. Provide parents with reports of their child's progress. Provide parents reasonable access to staff so that they can talk about their students' progress. If their child is struggling, what can I do as a teacher to support you at home? And so we have to give that reasonable access to staff. Provide parents opportunities to volunteer and ensure regular two-way meaningful communication between family members and staff to the extent practical in the language family members can understand. And we do have interpreters in our district that have been wonderful in helping us provide, especially in our Spanish speaking. We do have a school that had kindergartners last year, and it was pretty neat to see, but most of them were non-English speaking, but were Spanish speaking. So we've been able to get interpreters in to assist us. And the most important thing with these plans, the compact and the FACE plan, is that they do have to be distributed to families. We do give them out at the beginning of the year. It is required by the state that they're posted on the school's website. And so you'll see many of your Title I schools will have an area on their school website that's Title I or parents and families. And you'll see a list of all of those things within their website. Each school is also required to post their school-wide plan and their budget within their school-wide plan. So there's 4 components in there that would be posted on their website. So moving into Title I, Part C, this is migrant education. The goal of the migrant education program is to ensure that all migrant students receive challenging academic standards and graduate with a high school diploma or complete a GED that prepares them for reasonable citizenship, further learning, and productive employment. Many of these students are migrant students that move from district to district, across the state, crossing states, across the United States. And so truly the ESSA part of this is just to ensure that we're getting them enrolled and providing them a quality education. Title I-D, Part D, the neglected, delinquent, and at-risk students. If there's questions, I'm most certain that Superintendent Swigert, who did this role for many, many years, can assist us. But this program was truly established to improve educational services for children and youth in local and state institutions for neglected or delinquent children and youth, so that such children and youth have opportunities to meet the same challenging state academic content standards and student academic achievement standards that all children in the state are expected to meet, even when they're not enrolled at a public school setting. To provide such children and youth with the services needed to make successful transition from institutionalization to further schooling and employment, and to prevent at-risk youth from dropping out of school, and to provide dropout and children and youth returning from correctional facilities are institutions for neglect and delinquent children and youth with a support system to ensure their continued education. I think our district does a very nice job of ensuring that the transition back into school is done well, with supports not only for the students, but really for the teachers and the administrators in the school. We do have, we have selected a new principal for this position, and that is Dr. Justin Conroy. And so he is been doing the position this year, but also being the assistant principal at Rapid City High School and is transitioning in nicely before the July 1st. Title 2A, as you know, is, as I indicated earlier, is our professional development, high quality teachers, and our assessments and accountability. Title II funds are used to increase student achievement consistent with challenging state academic standards, improve the quality and the effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders, increase the number of teachers, principals, and other school leaders who are effective in improving student academic achievement in schools, and provide low-income and minority students greater access to effective teacher, principals, and other school leaders. And that's directly from ESSA. So we have to use our funds in these areas, as well as the accountability. So South Dakota's accountability model takes a thoughtful, balanced approach to defining the indicators of a strong education system. Rather than focus almost exclusively on student proficiency on a single assessment, it encompasses multiple indicators that are critical pieces in preparing students for rigors of the 21st century world. And these are all funded under Title II. The accountability system holds schools accountable through annual public reporting and classification based on school performance. The model is used to inform school leaders, teachers, and the public as how schools are progressing. So when we get our state school report card, each of our schools have to post that on their web page or where they can find access to it. We also do that on our Title II webpage under teaching and learning. You'll see that the links and everything else is posted there. That will be coming soon. And over the summer, we have to have all this spring's accountability results up and ready to go before the new school year starts, so that parent have access to those results. With its emphasis on continuous improvement, it sets a high bar for ongoing reflection and goal setting. The accountability system shall apply to all public schools whose primary purpose is to provide academic instruction. So when we talk about continuous improvement, all of our schools have done a comprehensive needs assessment. Title schools and our schools, so our entire district, it's required that we are posting our individual school comprehensive needs assessment on our web page as well. So you can always go out to a school such as Blackhawk and go on their web page and find their results from their comprehensive needs assessment, find their school improvement plan, find their accountability system, and be able to view it. The same as such you would find at a Title I school. Our assessment process, each school district is required to have implemented a set of high quality student academic assessments in reading, math, our language, arts, and science. You've heard a lot of our TLI personnel in the last couple months talk about our new math curriculum, talk about different assessments that we're utilizing. The assessment timelines are set by the states and districts. So the assessment window is set by the state, and then we as a district set our assessment timeline and get those out to parents. We also have an obligation to post those on our webpage so our parents know when we are going to be giving those assessments. And most of the schools do send out communication in the form of a letter, because that also helps us ensure that our students are present during assessments. Assessments may individual student growth, such as math, Acadians, and then we also utilize the ACT. South Dakota and Rapid City area schools use SBAC, computer adaptive assessments, that measure a student's academic proficiency above or below grade level, and the scores are used in the state's accountability system. So those scores, then when the state reviews them, determines our school improvement schools. And like I said, we only had 3 this year, so we are really hoping that we continue to make the progress necessary at all our schools. As I stated earlier, these are the student groups for accountability. And these are the groups that determine whether we go into a school improvement status or not. And so even if you are a Title I school, you still can be put into that particular status based on your race and ethnicity or your program participation. The other important piece of Title II, as you know, is professional development. We utilize Title II dollars for effective instructional practice and workshops, project-based learning workshops, pacing guides, assessment and performance level So that's the work that teachers are doing out in the schools. They get additional pay to work on these types of activities after school hours. They have vertical alignment, new course development. They may be doing updated course development over the summer. PLC support and guidance, instructional material reviews, teaching and learning specialists. There's embedded professional development that they provide, book studies, CEU, grad credits. Registration and travel fees come out of Title II, consultant contracts. Much of what you see on budget reports, they come in as purchase services. That's our consultant agreements. And then review of instructional resources and data retreats. We also utilize Title II funds for our teacher and leader quality. Under Every Student Succeeds Act, it does not require specific educator evaluation measures or methods, but the law does allow, but does not require states to use Title I funds to implement teacher evaluations. But we do have to follow the state's model to receive our federal funds. Title II Part A allows states to fund their priorities in attracting, preparing, supporting, and retaining effective teachers and leaders to serve high poverty minority students. That may come in the form of a bonus, a hiring bonus. It may come in the form of just our recruiting and attracting, also providing additional training for our new teachers, which we do. Under Title IIA also, these are other areas which, I've explained. One of really that we've done a lot of is the teacher and school leader academies, which I think are pretty cool. We don't necessarily call them academies, but we have a lot of coaching that goes on out in our schools, especially with one of our initiatives this year with evidence-based learning. There was quite a bit of coaching between our high schools. I think that was a very good use of our funds. Activities to support principals. And this was new last year. It's that 3% Title II set aside to support our leaders in our buildings, as well as your district leaders, to continue to provide them high quality professional development so that we can provide that support to our schools. Educator training on the use of technology and data privacy. Review of state certification, licensure, and tenure systems. Develop and implementation of teacher evaluation and support systems, and other state educator workforce priorities. And this is all under teacher leader quality under Title II. Title IV, I didn't go into depth because I was here 2 weeks ago and we really went into depth and talked about all the services that we provide. But 3, of course, you've heard me say this, that under Title IV, we have to provide all students with the access to a well-rounded education, improve school conditions for student learning, and supporting use and access to technology. Under the McKinney-Vento Act, which provides rights and services to children and youth experiencing homelessness, which includes those who are, these are the areas that we qualify our students under McKinney-Vento. Sharing the housing of others due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, staying in motels, trailer parks, or campgrounds due to the lack of adequate alternative housing. Staying in shelters or transitional housing, or sleeping in cars, parks, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, or similar settings. We are very fortunate because under McKinney-Vento, we receive a rather small, I feel it's a small allocation through the state to provide services to these students. We spend a lot of the funds through our McKinney-Vento on supplies and materials, helping students have the supplies and materials necessary to be successful in the classroom. So with the ARP funds, we received ARP 1 and 2, and over the past couple years, that is where we've been able to utilize funds to help do temporary housing, to pay for temporary housing in a motel till a family can find adequate housing through the other services in our community. Anita Delanero, who is our coordinator, has done a really nice job with our service agencies and our community partners. So prior to 2 years ago, we just have worked 100% solely off of our McKinney-Vento grant, but the ARP funds has helped us get those kids to school. I know that when we did an ESSER presentation 2 years ago, we talked about not only the bus passes in our school system that are free, but we can get our students Lyft cards, Uber cards to help get them where they need to be. If there is a need because of most of our instruction with our LMSs being for homework at home, we've been able to get data cards for those particular homeless students so that they can do their homework, whether it's on their computer or their iPad or their phone, they have internet access. So it's been wonderful. The ARP 1 and 2 funds have been very beneficial to help and try to continue to support to keep our students engaged, especially those students that are still experiencing hardships out in the community. Here is a little bit about participation of children enrolled in private school. So the South Dakota Department of Education provides non-public schools with an equitable service proportional share amount for Title I, which we actually, under the equitable share, we actually provide a teacher that works with our Title I in the area of reading, our non-public schools. That teacher recently retired. And I'm sure she'll be at her retirement here at the end of May. And so a young lady was recently hired, and that'll be coming up in a future board agenda to provide those services for our non-pub schools. The proportionate share amounts for the 23-24 school year, for all 9 schools, they share obviously a teacher. Under Title II, they each get an equitable share of $74,740. Title III, we don't accept funds for Title III. And then Title IV is $41,105. So that leads me into what is our consolidated plan. Everything you heard before that, we have to take from our 10 title schools, our school improvement schools, anything under Title 1D, Title II, Title IV, and our McKinney-Vento plan, along with other services, is all comprehensively put into a district plan. And so what we have to do as you are our LEA, we put together a consolidated plan that addresses how our school district will utilize the Title I funds throughout the entire school system. This is our student academic assessments, additional assistance provided for struggling students, coordination and integration of federal funds and programs. So that's your federal funds and our general ed programs to ensure that we are not supplanting. Professional development for all staff, not just staff in Title I schools or in a federal program that are paid out of a federal program, but every single staff member. School programs include your migrant, your preschool, your English language learners, and homeless as considered applicable. Parent and family engagement strategies, which is included in our parent and family engagement policy. And parents have the right to be part of the development of each Title I school plan that I consolidate and put into one district plan. So in order to receive these funds, as our Director of Finance, Coy Sassy, would tell you, there's always fiscal requirements. I believe that our school district does an amazing job to ensure that we are following those fiscal requirements. Part of that is done through what is called maintenance of effort to ensure to supplement, not supplant, and comparability of services as per signed of our assurances. So when we sign those assurances, we state in those assurances that anything that we're doing for Title I schools is above and beyond what we would do for our regular funded schools. Federal funds to supplement, not supplant. These funds would be used to supplement parent involvement, to supplement even our instructional support that's provided to any of our schools. There has to be what's called a local methodology in place that's used to ensure that our Title I schools are funded equally in comparison to non-Title I schools. We get a lot of questions about that. And so Superintendent Swigert and myself and the business office, we do a really good job ensuring that our methodology matches the services that are provided in the school. So for example, if you take a non-title school and you fund that non-title school based on the number of students, they're allocated a number of FTEs. We have to fund the Title I school in the same way. Now, in a Title I school plan, if they should choose that they need additional, for example, instructional support or intervention support, that would be then considered above and beyond. And that's part of that maintenance of effort. And I know you hear Mr. Sassy talk about it. I talk about it a lot with my staff. And really, that's what the definition is to ensure that we are equitable across the district. So our federal funding this year is right before you. Our Title I is a little over 5 million. However, after carryover, we get carryover in the fall of each year. And those are the funds. Usually there's a savings because of a variety of reasons, mainly on salaries. For example, we do project high, which we project high prior to negotiations. And then when we go in, some people opt in for insurance, some opt out. Those are kind of those circumstances that take place. We get carryover. Sometimes we have a savings in terms of a contracted service that we thought would be 10,000, but when all said and done, it may have cost the district 8,000. So when we get that carryover, it will be usually it'll be around 6.1 million when all said and done. Title 1D is a smaller allocation of 246,424. Our Title II is at 1,116,923. This year, we actually had an additional carryover of a little more than $1 million. And so we've worked hard this year to try to utilize our Title II. Part of the reason why we've had a lot of carryover the last couple years had to do with the structure we were in following 2020. We weren't bringing in consultants to our school like we normally would have. We didn't have all of the trainings that we normally would have in a regular school year. This school year, we've really got back to all the amazing things that we've done for years and years. And so it's been a nice thing to have the extra money, but I know going into next year, we'll be working on that Title II plan to ensure that we utilize all of the funds to support the staff. Title IV is generally around 614,000, and the carryover on that generally is just 100,000 or a little more. And then McKinney-Vento is to be determined. That has not opened up. We haven't received that allocation, but that's formula based on the number of students that are considered homeless in our community. So the transition timeline, obviously now, and really truly throughout the whole school year, is we familiarize our stakeholders. We provide training, we provide awareness. And each year about this time, I try to do, well, this would be my second review with the school board, just to ensure that we are being transparent so that you understand and the community understands what we're utilizing our funds for in this school district. Then during the school year, and now we're up to May, we develop generally right before Christmas or after Christmas, we start working with our principals, not only to evaluate their current plan and to ensure they're on track with their current plan, but also we have to begin the practice of planning for next year. And so I have received already 7 fully completed school-wide plans out of our 10 Title I schools, which is very, very good. We started the work back in February. They have been working very hard, utilizing their resources and evaluating the programs that they currently have in their building to get those plans submitted. Those plans will be submitted to me in their final state by next Friday. Then we also give them additional time to ensure that they get all their assessment information, because we also have one window of cadence testing that principals are waiting on that information, because we do have to put our testing results in our school-wide plan. It's part of setting goals for the next year. That plan then is submitted to the state in June. Our targeted date has always been June 9th or 10th, and we were done, ready to go by June 9th or 10th last year. And that's our targeted date again this year. The school improvement plans to be in compliance with ESSA. Their plans were due May 1st. That's your school improvement schools. And we are finalizing their budgets next week for next year. So each of our school improvement schools, they're required to be in school improvement for 3 years, and they have to show progress. And so they were given a 1003A grant that they could apply for. So we will work on the plans are submitted, and we're working on the budgets, and then those have to be submitted prior to June 1st. But we'll be done with those next week. And that's your Corral Drive, General Beetle, and Horace Mann. And so by June, everything is submitted, and generally we hope to have everything approved by September. The state did a wonderful job this year. We had everything in the approval state where they approve our plan and everything. We didn't have any revisions, but by the time they got us our funds, it's generally around October. So, and those are all of our formula grants. So next steps, of course, are we always consider in my office best way to involve stakeholders. We'll work with my 10 title schools and all of our other stakeholders to ensure that they are holding themselves to high expectations and meeting the needs of their families, soliciting input from all of their stakeholders, which can be families, and their school family, which could be guardians or other individuals that are considered parents. And how to change mindset from compliance to responsibility and expectation. That's one of the things that we worked on last year, is to really look at this as next steps and how to improve the education for our students and not view it as a responsibility. Because we receive these federal funds, but we shouldn't be just dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We are really, truly looking at the needs of our students. And I think we've got our principals and our teachers in the right direction into looking at this in a different mindset. And the best technical assistance, that's one of the next steps, is to ensure that we are providing the professional development necessary under Title I and Title II and Title IV to give to those individual schools. Questions?
Do we need to well, first of all, does she need to mute her computer? Yeah, and then okay, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions. First off, the proportionate share, is that money specifically given for use with the non-public schools? Like, that's not coming out of ours, that is specifically for that?
So the equitable share is not what our schools are entitled to. It is a share above and beyond, and the state utilizes a formula to figure that out based on their free and reduced population in their school. So for example, if our private school has a number of students coming from, for example, the General Beetle, Knollwood, Horace Mann North attendance area, their equitable share would be a higher equitable share based on their enrollment because they're serving a higher population of those students that come from that area. But that equitable share is above and beyond what our schools are receiving. And it's based on a formula. It's put into an Excel document, and our business office calculates that for us.
Awesome. I didn't know that existed, so thank you for that. And then other question, with the Title III funds, why don't we have Title III funds?
I have not seen an application come forth in the last 2 years that I've been here to apply for those Title III funds.
There may be grants out there, but we have not had a grant come through in the last 2 years.
If there would be a Title III grant come through, I would do a request to the school board, a grant fact sheet requesting permission to apply for that grant.
Okay.
That's how the process works for any of our formula grants as well.
So if we do keep seeing this increase, then we probably would eventually years down the line. Cool, thank you. That is all.
Thank you, Michael.
Go ahead.
Sure. So to quote one, thank you so much, especially for us newbies. Like there's a lot to unpack. You have a very complex job and I appreciate what you do. I wonder, so when you say North is considered 100% economic disadvantage, like how is that defined? Because in my head, like I hear that as a layman and go, okay, every single student possible is considered. So can you help me understand that a little bit better?
Yeah, so under free and reduced in our SEPA, is that how you say it, SEPA schools, there actually is a formula based on that, but all of North Middle School based on the percentage of students that actually qualify for free and reduced, that qualification through a formula has North Middle School at 100%. General Beadle is also at 100% free and reduced. Our other schools, when our food service collects their free and reduced applications, we actually, and I probably could have mentioned this under Title I, we actually monitor those numbers monthly. Hoy Sassy's office, along with Krista, our food service manager, they collect and give us information monthly on what those numbers look like. So for example, we are monitoring 2 schools in our district that right now before COVID, our last free and reduced was submitted in 2019. This year, we had to start collecting those free and reduced forms again, as many of you know. And so we actually have 2 schools in our district that fell below the 35%. And Superintendent Swigert and myself and Hoy Sassy and the business department have been working with those principals in explaining how that process works. So Rapid Valley dropped a percentage to 34%. They still will be, as far as the consolidated app for next year, I was able to work with Rob Huffman at the state, and he helped me understand how I could grandfather those 2 schools in for next year. Then Valley View is at 32%, because think this was 4 years ago, we've been allowed to use 2019 data. Now this year in 2022-23, we had to collect those free and reduced forms. So going into next year, what we will do along with Hoy Sassy, Krista, and the business department is to monitor these monthly. Through grandfathering them in, if we monitor monthly and see that they would re-qualify, then they actually can get a Title I allocation the following year. So that's one of the things that we've discussed with those principals. They still qualify for next year. But if they would not qualify, then we would notify them early on. We definitely, and we've worked with the principals on this, is we definitely don't want to say they're a non-title school even going into next year. They're still Title I schools, but we want to continue to monitor their free and reduce. There's a variety of things that our food service department does to really work with families, especially those that have negative balances, try to get those free and reduced forms out to parents. But under the state statute, we cannot require families to fill that form out, if that makes sense. You know, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, especially when it comes to the title funding. Valley View has been a Title I school. I don't know the exact years or if they went in when the new school came about, but it's definitely a support that is definitely needed at that school. And so going into next year, what I've reassured the principals is that our business department and food service will continue to monitor monthly. Historically, Rapid City area schools utilizes the April 1st free and reduced, because then we've collected as many as possible that we can submit to the state.
One more, maybe 2. So when the private schools opt out, does that just mean like I guess those funding and services is not available to them for that year, like they're choosing to not even
Right, they are choosing not to accept the equitable share. So then what happens is the equitable share comes for 9 schools. 2 opted out this year, so then the other 7 share that equitable portion.
So partially interested, so their Title I status is assessed every year. Is there, because I believe, and absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there are some schools that have been Title I that later were not. So is it in the realm of possibility, 2 years down the road, let's say if Valley or Rapid Valley did not return their status, is there, like, do we look at the district and say another school could be?
We look at all the elementary schools. Yes. And yep, we do. And so, for example, we've had, for example, I'll use Canyon Lake. Years ago, they were a Title I school, then they were a non-Title I school, and then they went back to Title I status. It's all based on that free and reduce percentage.
And there's a good chance that in the future, another middle school could possibly qualify moving forward if they reach that.
That
threshold.
100%, yeah.
Is there a
Limited number, like, can only so many schools, or is it so many dollars? Like, what's the, because
It's all based on that percentage of free and reduce. So let's just hypothetically say all 15 qualified, all 15 would receive Title I funding.
But the pie stays the same size.
Yes,
So if all 15 qualify, everybody's share is small.
right,
yes,
okay,
Because the amount of money we get doesn't.
correct.
So, and the amount of money a school gets is based on their number of students. So if another middle school would qualify, their number of students would be high. It's the domino effects with how that works.
Did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
As well. Maybe the first person you asked, I can't remember what it was, but well, don't forget to unmute your mic.
Okay. When is the number of homeless students counted in order to know what funds we will receive? At the end of a year, or how do you know what to receive for the next year?
Do you remember the date of when we submit
We've submitted our count,
Okay.
and so our count has already been submitted to the state. And so it's all formula based. Sioux Falls and our school district receive the McKinney-Vento funds, like the highest share
Sure.
of funds. Yes.
Okay.
So it's a count that's submitted,
and I don't remember what date, but it's been submitted.
We submit it like
Oh.
a pre-count, and then we have to send them all the names in the list and they double check them. So we do get credit for all the students we identify
Okay.
during the course of a year, and our numbers are increasing. We are over 750.
Like 800
It's
something.
800 and something. I
Okay.
mean, last time I looked, it's a very large number. It has increased substantially post-COVID. And I think that's not necessarily a COVID issue. It is a high cost of housing in Rapid City area issue. So remember, people who are doubled up qualify for McKinney-Vento.
Yeah.
Right.
People who live in monthly leased hotels qualify for McKinney-Vento. People living in campgrounds
Mhm.
qualify for McKinney-Vento. We're fortunate in the school setting that we can count all of those things, because the national setting for housing has a different set of rules. So we are thankful that our set of rules lets us identify more students and families for assistance, but it's not enough. And that amount of money the state gets is right now is only divided between Rapid City and Sioux Falls. But if other districts would opt into that, then our slice of that pie would get smaller also, which is always a concern.
for a very small allocation
That we already received.
Okay. With the surveys that you do with parent involvement, I thought you said maybe you do those in the spring. Is there, if that's the case, do you do a survey in the fall as well? Just going out and coming in, setting the plan up for maybe changing the plan or something?
So right now, most of our schools do it in the spring, but there is nothing wrong with doing a survey any time of the year just to get feedback on your sport. You'll even see, you'll go to family events where they may even be doing an exit ticket
Right.
or even just a quick survey to find out what additional support do families need.
Okay.
So it's ongoing.
And then comprehensive needs assessment. How are these, are the ones that you have to put up on the website? How are any of the ones from last year before, are they archived at all on the school's website or the links to?
They
So
may
that people,
be-
parents can, check back a couple years ago, where was the school at, or as compared to now?
Under Title I, I can't speak for the general
Sure.
side of it, but under Title I, they're only required to have their most recent.
Okay.
But my assumption would be that many of the schools may have left up their last comprehensive needs assessment, which I want to say was 2016, 17.
Okay.
And then they had the one last year. So the most recent one
Okay.
you will see, and they're required to have it up for family review and
Okay.
community.
And then last but not least, the assessments. It was the first block on the assessments page. I don't know if you want to go back to that. real
I
quick,
can.
but,
I will try to go back. There we go. And I'll try to answer to the extent,
one more down, or
You
Forward.
asked it, go
Yeah.
to forward.
right there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it says, you may not be able to answer this. Each school district is required to have implemented a set of high quality student academic assessments in math, reading, language arts, and science. How is that defined? Or I guess what data do we use to prove that it's high quality? What does high quality mean?
that's a great question, but I will tell you that obviously we use the state assessment, but we do through our teaching and learning office vet assessments. So for example, we have schools pilot.
Mhm.
So for example, at North Middle School, I want to say it was 2021, I piloted the MAPS assessment, 6 through 8. And so those are vetted, and that's all done through our TLI office. They determine through teacher comments, parents, our school leaders, if that measures what the intent is to measure within that school, whether it's math, well, that would be math for that particular
Sure.
assessment.
But in this case, they're specifically referring to the state.
Yeah.
The SBAC or the
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, they're specifically.
I
stating
see.
that-
In this particular,
Yes.
this part is what we're
Mhm.
required to have
Yes.
implemented. Okay, gotcha.
And then obviously our school district can have the benchmarks and all of that is vetted through a process.
Okay. That's all I had. Did you have your hand back up again?
No, I didn't.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, I think, wow, that was really good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a lot of information each year.
It is, but what I appreciate is that you're not just reading it for us, you're stepping back in almost every single section saying, no, this is what this means. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you so much
Yep.
for letting me see.
Okay, we are on to other. Does any board member have an other? Or Mrs. Swider?
I do not.
Okay. I need a motion, a second to go into executive session.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we are going into executive session for SDCL 1-25-2.1, and there will be no further action afterwards.